How's it guys, this is Dayvy FPL and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video we're going to be going over the highly anticipated ultimate guide to blank game week 31. The blank game week fixtures are confirmed now, so we can look at our FPL squads and see what planning we can do. Whether it's a little bit too late to do planning, we'll be discussing a little bit later on in the video, but nevertheless we'll be talking about more general aspects of game week 31, including a Freehit draft right at the end, so stay tuned for that. In the game week 31 preview, we'll be talking about captaincy and players to watch out for, as those are quite form and injury dependent. So without further ado, let's get into the ultimate guide. Thank you to OneFootball for sponsoring this video. Link down below if you do want to use my download link to download this wonderful app. Thanks again for sponsoring the video. If you don't know, OneFootball is the everything football related app. It's free to download on iOS or Android, and you can see there on the table. I'm following the Premier League right now. Gives me all the goals, assists, and whatever I need to know, as well as following my favorite team if I do want to follow a team, which is for me Liverpool, but for you it could be anyone else. Also, if you want to track more leagues than just the Premier League, go and check out this app. As I said, link down below. So the worst case scenario here, I'm assuming that you have not used your transfer for game week 30. If you have, unfortunately, you're only going to have one free transfer between now and game week 31. So 2 free transfers is not a lot in hindsight. When you look at your FPL squad and you suddenly realize you only have 3 players playing in blank game week 31, and unfortunately those 2 free transfers are going to have to be used wisely. My recommendation for these transfers, the first point is a little bit of a no-brainer there. Prioritize the blank players. So get those players that aren't playing blank game week 31 out and bring those players that are back in. So with these 2 free transfers, I would look at your bank and your budget and simply just do like for like swaps. So say you have a 4.5 million defender and you only have 0.1 in the bank, then I would only be using that 4.6 defender to bring him in, as then that does not require a hit. So just be quite savvy with your transfers. These are really precious before a blank game week, and obviously this excludes if you are using a chip. So if you're using a wild card or a free hit, you can kind of go for whoever you want to, as you'll have a new fresh squad for blank game week 31. So these are the teams that are blanking. I know this is quite a lot, 12 teams in total. So this kind of just speaks to us about how big of a blank game week this is actually going to be. 12 teams removed, which means 6 fixtures aren't going to be played. And that leaves us with these 4. So only 4 fixtures for blank game week 31, the biggest blank of the 2019/2020 season, and one of the biggest blanks that I think I've ever had in FPL. So 4 fixtures, not a lot to look at, only 8 teams, and unfortunately some of the budget teams are playing each other, so that kind of forces us to choose which side we're going to be leaning. So Spurs West Ham, on paper that looks like a really good fixture for Spurs, but unfortunately West Ham have shown recently that they're looking a little bit better defensively and attacking wise, and Spurs have been absolutely dreadful. So that is quite a hard game to predict, and it almost puts me off Spurs assets a little bit because just of how badly they've been playing. Burnley, Watford's another one. So that's 2 budget teams playing against each other, and now hopefully this is a high scoring or a low scoring affair depending on if you own Burnley or Watford attackers or defenders, but I think this game could be quite close. Burnley have also shown defensively some better form. Watford, I know recently they didn't seem that good after that Liverpool win, but they can still always rebound. I think the only thing that's a little bit of a hindrance here is that it is an away fixture for Watford, and Burnley at home are usually quite good. So this is probably going to be quite a tight game, but probably a nice one for our budget enablers and those players to bring in that we could bench every so often. Then Liverpool against Crystal Palace. Now Liverpool also not playing well, and Crystal Palace defensively are really strong at the moment. So I think this will be a Liverpool win, but I think it will be a close one, and I'm pretty sure everyone will have the Liverpool assets anyway, so I don't think that's going to affect our rank too much. With Crystal Palace, maybe if you own Guaita like me, you can just be lucky that you have a keeper that's playing, but I don't know if there's too many other Crystal Palace options that I would be looking at. Then the final fixture of blank game week 31 is Wolves versus Bournemouth, which I think has the highest scoring potential. I think it's going to be for one side, and that's Wolves. Bournemouth, not the greatest side at the moment, and I do think with those Wolves assets looking in better form recently, Jimenez, Jota, and Doherty are going to look absolutely insane for this, and if you have all 3 of them, I think you're lapping up this opportunity to get those points. So this is the fixture that I think a lot of FPL managers will be looking at, and maybe even a sneaky punt for a Bournemouth option if you think they're going to be doing well. So the chip strategy is probably going to be the most talked about option for this blank game week, and the highly talked about chip is going to be the Freehit. So we'll talk about the Freehit last. The bench boost and triple captain. If you bench boosting in game week 31, I think I just have to stand back and applaud you. If you have that many players without a wild card, I think that's absolutely marvelous. Now, obviously, you could wild card game week 30 and then have a nice bench boost, but I don't think there's enough fixtures for me to look at. I don't even think there's enough players for a starting 11 that are really desirable. So I don't think the bench boost is going to come into account this game week. And if you do have it, I would recommend maybe use it in the double game week at the end of the season. The triple captain as well could be a nice differential to use. I think the double is probably the one you want to be using in, but as we've seen with blank game week 29, you can't really predict who's going to be playing two fixtures, so the triple captain could be used in this blank game week 31. As I said, nice differential, but I think a lot of people will be going for the likes of Wolves and Liverpool, so it condenses those captaincy options quite a bit. So the Freehit, should you use the Freehit? And I think the biggest question that's going to come out of this ultimate guide is how many players should you have in your lineup and how many players should you have to use the Freehit? So I think the nice sweet spot for players is going to be around that 9 player mark. So if you have 8 players, not the end of the world, but I think 9 players is where you want to hit, and as I said, the sweet spot. So if you have 9 players or as close to it as possible, I don't think you necessarily have to use your Freehit. Now if you have less than that, I do think the Freehit could be a consideration, and I think a lot of FPL managers will be using the Freehit in blank game week 31 simply because it was announced quite late and we haven't had as many free transfers to prepare for it. So as I said, if you have 9 players, 8 players, maybe even 7, I think that's high enough, but if you have less than that, maybe the Freehit should be an option and definitely should be in your consideration. If you have 9 players and you still want to Freehit, it's your team, you can go for it, but my recommendation would be that I think with the low amount of fixtures, there might be other opportunities later on in the season that could see more use out of the Freehit. So this game week can basically be divided into 2 options: your premium teams and your budget teams. Now, budget does not equal bad, and that's something that I want to stress about. It's just that these teams have far cheaper players than the other options. So the premium teams: Liverpool, Wolves, and Tottenham Hotspurs. So Liverpool, I think all of us basically own 2 or 3 Liverpool options, and I would probably recommend that you do have at least 2 because of just how good Liverpool's fixtures are recently, and they are quite nice to hold on to after this blank game week. Some of these teams, you don't really want to hold on to them. We're simply just bringing them in for blank game week 31 because they have a fixture, and then they're not really that desirable afterwards. Where Liverpool, they do have some nice options. I think my recommendation for Liverpool would try to get Salah/Mane. If you can get both, that's going to be the best option, and then just go for one of their defenders. Now, Liverpool defensively haven't been as strong as they've been in previous game weeks, so that's why I'm kind of the desirable options going to be Mane and Salah up front, and then you can just go for wherever you want in defense. Trent Alexander-Arnold looks like a good option, but he's also quite expensive, so you could also look at Gomez. Now with Wolves, the players that I'd be looking at are Doherty, Saiss, Jimenez, and Jota. So you could also go for Traore, but recently with his shoulder injury has become a little bit of a rotation risk, which is why I've opted for the other 4. Obviously you can also go for anyone else, but I think Jimenez and Jota up front are a perfect combination for that Bournemouth fixture, and if both of them do play, I can see some FPL points in that one. Then with Doherty, he just gets forward so much. He's playing that wing back position, which makes him really attacking, and I think that he looks like a nice option to go for. Also not as expensive as maybe the Liverpool assets. If you want to downgrade one of them, you could look at Doherty. And then Saiss is pretty much the budget option to go for if you don't have a lot of money to spend but you want a Wolves defender. Willy Bolly is also a good option, but I think right now I prefer Saiss a little bit. Then with Spurs, we don't have many options on Spurs. As I said, not playing the best. You could opt for maybe a defender or an attacker, but I think West Ham have shown attacking prowess recently, so I don't know if I can see a clean sheet in that one for Spurs. But I think the only option I probably would look for is Dele Alli, and now Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. I don't think Son's going to be coming back anytime soon, but there are talks about those two maybe returning before the end of the season, so just keep your eyes on that one. I mean, imagine that differential if Harry Kane is backfiring for blank game week 31. Probably a little bit of an out there punt, but you could look at him. Now the budget options are where I think the value's at. The team I'm currently looking at are Watford, Burnley, and Crystal Palace. Now West Ham and Bournemouth, they're not the worst sides, but I don't know if their assets are as good as the other budget options. So Watford, we're looking at Sarr, has shown form against Liverpool, and hopefully he can rebound and score some points. Then with Burnley, we also have some nice options such as Chris Wood going forward, and then Charlie Taylor as a budget option in the back. And then with Crystal Palace, some of their attackers like Jordan Ayew have shown some nice form recently and have been quite cheap, but I think their defense is pretty much the solid state to go for. We have Van Arnold, you could look at maybe even Guaita, and also some other budget options that are also quite appetizing. Unfortunately with Crystal Palace, they do have a really tough fixture against Liverpool, probably the worst fixture in blank game week 31, so I don't think many people will be looking at them. But let's get on and see a free hit of the best players that I think you could be looking at. So even if you're not free hitting, I think this is a good guideline to look at for the players that I think are desirable. So starting off in goal, I've opted for Pope. I think out of the other defensive options, Pope's the best Burnley option to go for, whereas you could also opt for Patricio, but I think I would rather go for Doherty instead. So Pope comes in at the back. I've opted for a back three of Aurier, Alexander-Arnold and Doherty, or three very attacking players. I've just opted for Hanley because of that budget option, but Aurier, Alexander-Arnold and Doherty should be getting some points this blank game week, and I definitely do think they're the best three attacking going forward. I think Van Arnold also has a shout in here for the likes of Aurier, but I just think that the Liverpool fixture, you can't really guarantee a clean sheet in that one. Going into the midfield, I've opted for a midfield four of Sarr, Salah, Mane and Ali. Salah, Mane, best Liverpool combo to go for. Ali's also showing some form, so the only kind of Spurs option that I would touch attacking wise, and then Sarr, we spoke about him against Liverpool, has played so well, and I think that I'm backing him to maybe get on the receiving end of a goal or an assist here. McNeil could be also an option you look at, but I simply just had him in here because I had a lot of budget to spend, so I can have a nice budget option if one of these players is rested. In the forward line, the front three is going to be Chris Wood, Jimenez and Jota. So I think these three have the best scoring potential in blank game week 31, and I do think I'm going to be looking at them to get me some points. So if you were to free it, I think this would be the team that I'd look at. Nice combination. It's kind of a little bit one-sided to Liverpool, Wolves and Spurs, but we have some other nice budget options to go hand in hand. So this is basically going to wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please like it if you did, and subscribe if you're new or have not subscribed yet. Otherwise, I hope you guys stay tuned for the Game Week 30 preview and team selection, and then also check out the Game Week 31 preview and team selection when blank Game Week 31 is just on the horizon. Follow me on Twitter for FPL updates, and otherwise I'm going to be signing off. This has been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.